right, good to go. Good evening, everyone. Welcome, welcome. We're just gonna wait a couple of minutes for let people log in. Um, but welcome, everyone. How's everyone doing? I know yesterday's question was where you were logging in from, but I guess we can change it a little bit today and just ask you, what school are you? What school are you from? What school do you represent? I know this is a student summit, but even if you're not attending a current school right now, just tell us where you graduated from, and just put that in the chat. As we give some people some time for people to log in. Great.
Carlos, you might be sharing your
Yes.
screen. Check if you could stop that. Awesome.
Okay.
I'll share now.
All right. Excellent. I know I haven't worn a blazer in in a very long time. So, but I'm glad that we're having this event. That it's an excuse to definitely put it on. All right. All right, guess we can get started. I'm guessing more people will be logged in the next few minutes. So welcome everyone, happy Wednesday. Welcome to Alpha Boston's 2021 Virtual Student Summit, Thriving in Times of Change. We're very happy for all of you guys to be here. This is day 2 of our 2-day summit. It's our final day, so we're happy to start it off with our keynote speaker today. But before we dive into that, I just wanted to give you a little bit of background on what we covered yesterday, who we are, who is Alpha, what do we do, and let's talk about a little bit more about like the sessions that we're going to be having for the day. So next slide, please. So Alpha stands for Association of Latinos Professionals for America. They do a lot of work with the Latinx community at different levels. But here, for today's purposes, we're focusing on students. So Alpha Boston about student affairs. We're about 2,100 members at the different colleges around the New England area. We have about 155 premium members. We constitute 7 chapters in the New England area. And I know we're called Alpha Boston, but as it relates to students, we're definitely trying to cover all of those universities within the New England area. So if you go to any of those universities and would like to learn more about the work that Alpha is doing, definitely connect with me. But our focus, what we're doing here, we're trying to do a bunch of career development sessions for the different students at the different universities with the mindset of our Latinx group. So, and how do we do that? We definitely share a bunch of resources that are happening within our own community, work that we're doing here at Alpha, and also sharing resources from other organizations. We do that on our monthly newsletter that we put together. If you're not receiving that yet, definitely become subscribed, to our monthly newsletters if you're currently a student. We want to create a community of students. So we have a LinkedIn group where people can just, log in, they can sign in, be part of that group, and they can also share resources, anything that is happening in their student career. So if you want to connect with me, here's my email. That's right. We can do next slide, please. And so the 7 student chapters that we have right now at the undergraduate level, we have Benson University, Boston University, Bryant University, Harvard University, and UMass Amherst. And then at the graduate level, we have Brandeis University and Suffolk University. If you are part of any of these universities and you want to join the Alpha chapter, once you get our surveys or more emails, connect with me and I'll introduce you to the right person. If your current chapter does not have a student chapter, connect with me and perhaps we can start one at your local university. I am here as a resource for you and help you create that Alpha chapter. And let's just quickly talk about day one. Day one was just on Monday. But we have we had so many great events, great sessions. We had our friends from Harvard University talked about interviewing in a virtual setting. That was a great session, telling us great practices on what to do, what not to do, and definitely we're able to answer questions on their perspective on things that they definitely see on people when they're interviewing virtual. So it's just such a great session. And then we talked about balancing a busy lifestyle with our friends' mental makeover. We definitely talked about our mental health, how to cope with stress during these times, and also just how to balance everything out. And they were able to share some great resources. And lastly, we had our very own marketing director of marketing, Laura, who talked about our online branding, the importance of having that, and also she was able to share so many great resources for us to be able to time everything better. And also as we trying to brand ourselves in a virtual setting now, she was able to provide so many great resources. But now we are on to day two. So before I tell you the sessions that we're going to be doing today, just to quickly rundown about what the agenda is going to look like. We're going to have our keynote speaker right now, but then we're going to have our first session right after that at 5:30 for about 45 minutes. So each session is going to be 45 minutes. 6:15, between 6:15 and 6:30, we're going to have a break where you can actually we're going to be able to go to the launch if you actually want to chat with other people. I'll certainly be there. So if you want to chat with me, there will be a great opportunity to do so. But if not, you can definitely go take a break and come back at 6:30. Each session will start on its own. You don't need to touch anything. It will just start by itself. And then we have the different sessions. Under each session, you can see the speaker's description. If you want to connect with them, you'll be able to do that as well. Next slide, please. So today we're very happy to have our keynote speaker, Jose Miguel Longo, who's a career coach and life coach. I will introduce him a little bit more once we start his part. And then our first session of the night is creating wealth while managing debt. This is a very important topic in today's world. I know that once students graduate, and they definitely get that perfect job, or at least that job that they're looking for, now they're making more money, and they're like, great, they're happy I'm making more money, but do you know how to invest that money properly? Do you know how to allocate that extra money that you're making now? So we're definitely going to talk about how to make the best out of your buck. Then later, we're going to have, this is actually, I want to say, one of my favorite sessions of this whole summit. We're going to be talking about the benefits of joining in board. As you know, Alpha is a nonprofit organization. So definitely me as a board member, I find this topic, very refreshing. And, I being able to gain some of the different aspects about my professional growth and personal growth being part of a board. So we definitely want to share the opportunity from others to tell you guys why you should join a board. And lastly, you can join me as we get to practice your elevator pitch. We're not going to just completely recreate one, but we're going to be able to use the one that you already have and network and using what you already have and trying to perfect that, but just being able to talk to other people as well. So it's going to be a fun, full of many great conversations, many great resources. If you have any questions along the way, definitely put them in the chat. But yeah, we are here for you, so we're very happy to get started. Oh, and just quickly, so if you want to join our LinkedIn group, you can, take out your camera, you can hover over the QR code, and that will take you directly to our LinkedIn group. Please do not forget to follow us on all of our social medias. We are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. We are at Alpha Boston, so please follow us if you want to learn more about any of our upcoming events as well. Awesome. And next, we're going to start with our keynote speaker. I definitely want to do a quick introduction about him, but I'll definitely I'll give him the opportunity to introduce himself. But just quickly, Jose Miguel, he's a strategic leader with over 10 years of experience in human services, talent management, career development, coaching, and counseling. He has spent the last 10 years of his career coaching students and alumni from all over different backgrounds in their life and careers at different colleges and universities. He's always had a passion for life coaching and blending the career coaching into the work. In 2019, he became a certified life purpose coach to pursue life coaching business. Originally from Queens, New York, Jose Miguel is a founder and owner of Coaching with Jose Miguel, LLC, and the host of Coaching for Millennials, a podcast where his goal is helping millennials achieve meaningful and successful careers while gaining clarity and purpose. So when I invited Jose to be our keynote today, we definitely thought about what could be a great topic and to talk about. And a lot as we were talking about all the different sessions, the word that kept coming up at every session was change. Change kept popping up at every single session. Hence the reason why we're calling this whole summit "Thriving in Times of Change." Change is inevitable and it happens all the time. So today we'll be focusing on how to work with that change. So I would like to introduce Jose Miguel. Take it away.
Thank you so much, Carlos. I'm so honored, and thank you so much for inviting me to be your keynote. I'm very grateful for this opportunity. I have a lot to unpack today in regards to thriving in a time of change, so I'm super excited to just jump right in, and I'll be looking at the chat while I'm presenting, so if anybody has any questions or comments you'd love to share, please do so in the chat. So, jumping right in, I think the screen is sharing. Yes, it is. So thriving in times of change. And based on the conversation that Carlos and I were having, the topic of change seems to be resonating with all of us as we're coming back to, a new normal of what our lives are after being either on a lockdown or home for the last year, but really all of you as students or as alums are going through a change as well in your life. So let's really talk about what change means and what it is. So change, by the definition of Oxford Dictionary, is the act or instance of making or becoming different. So when we think of change can oftentimes be a scary word to people. People don't oftentimes like change because they have to do something different from what they're used to doing. People oftentimes are what we call quote unquote creatures of habit. They like the consistency. So when we think of change, if we change the mindset about what we think of it as and put it in a positive connotation, it can mean new opportunities. It could also be an opportunity to explore some of the things or the parts about yourself that you didn't know you could do. So when we talk about thriving in a time of change, this is a great place to really give yourself the space, the permission, and the opportunity to push yourself a little bit harder to think about the things that you really want to uncover about yourself and the things you always wanted to do, and then showing up for you. So I wanted to start off with that because I think it's important for us to recognize what that is and to kind of own it. So how do we thrive during times of change? So this is sometimes perceived as to be a hard question, but really it's not. The problem is that it's a question. The answer to the question is different for everybody. So you really need to think of the question, let it sink in, and think of it how it applies to you. The other part to this question is that there's no right or wrong answer. And oftentimes people will sit with what someone else has to say based on their opinion or perception, as opposed to how they really feel. So what I really want to do is share with you my personal top 5 things that I think that will help you thrive in times of change. And we'll share the presentation slides with you. I know that Laura is going to be able to share that with the folks who are here today, and I'll share that with her later. So so if we're going too fast or you miss something that you wanted to write down, don't be shy, you'll get the information later. So when we think about thriving through times of change, these are my top 5 ways to really adjust and adapt to what is actually happening. And the reason I came up with these top 5 was because I thought about all the changes I've experienced in my life, whether it's going to college and graduating from college, getting a job, getting married. Those things are huge experiences that oftentimes can cause us anxiety, can cause us stress. So you want to be able to see how the change is happening in your life and what it really means. So the 5 things are, number 1, attitude of gratitude. And this you probably hear all the time. So it's just a saying, but we'll dive deeper into it. Number 2 is seeking inspiration, which is probably one of my favorites. Number 3 is grow relationships. I can tell you that throughout this pandemic, I've spent so much time meeting new people through Zoom and engaging in conversations through group chats on LinkedIn, and just making the most of the experience, even though it wasn't the best, right? And so growing relationships. Number 4 is probably my second favorite, which is feed your mind, take care of your body, and be one with your soul. And that really kind of has to sit with you a little bit. There are 3 different unique things, but they're so important to you as a person and you as a human. And then number 5 is take your time to reflect and grow, which is really what change is about. It's giving you the opportunity to look back on all the things that you've probably just accomplished or achieved, and then being open to what's going to come. So let's jump right in. So attitude of gratitude. So I have a quote here, which is by Zig Ziglar, and it says, gratitude is the healthiest of all human emotions. The more you express gratitude for what you have, the more likely you will have more to express for. And this particular quote resonates with me because when you start to shift your mindset, which we'll talk more about here in a couple of minutes, you'll be able to see a change in your behavior and your emotions. And one of the mindsets is being grateful for what you have and what you experience in life. This is going beyond the typical traditional please and thank you that we really know when we think about gratitude. It's actually taking it a step further and recognizing what you've been given, what your blessings are, and having intentionality behind those things. And this is a practice you need to actually implement to really help you be in that place of having an attitude of gratitude. You really need to think of it from the perspective of what is it that gives you joy in your life, and how can you be more grateful for that? How can you be saying, I appreciate all the gifts that I've been blessed with in my life? The fact that I woke up today and I'm breathing the air, the fact that I have clothes on my back, the fact that I'm spending my time with all of you beautiful people here today. I'm grateful for all those things. That's really one of the spaces and things you can do to apply an attitude of gratitude. The second was seeking inspiration. So this looks a little bit like a lot to look at, but I'll bear with me here a moment. So the quote behind seeking inspiration is, there are no limits to what you can accomplish, except the limits you place on your own thinking. Again, mindset. When we think about thriving in times of change, we hold ourselves back because we have a mindset, we have a belief that's causing a behavior, which is then causing us which is then preventing us from getting to where we want to go. When you're seeking inspiration, this is going to require action, and it's going to require you to be intentional. So it also requires you to reflect on the things that you want to get and the things you want to achieve. So I created a short list. This is just a short list. I know there's 10 on there, but 10 ways you can seek inspiration. And most of these things you probably already do, but you're not aware that you're doing them. So meditation and mindfulness, I can't emphasize how important it is to, and there are 2 different things I should probably preface, but meditation is the act of being still and being with oneself. And that could be whether it's you taking 10 minutes in the shower and listening to the sound of the water hitting your body and just reflecting on that, to whether you're driving in the car and you have no music and it's just you in the car and the sound of the wind around you. That can be an act of meditation. It doesn't mean that you have to have a guided meditation, which is what most people think. Now, mindfulness is an act of being aware of your surroundings. You can practice mindfulness by going out for a walk and being aware of nature. You can practice mindfulness by doing breathing exercises. You can practice mindfulness by writing in a journal. That's more using your brain to do something. And so these are things that we already do. We just have to have more awareness around them. Number 2, go out and explore. You can get inspiration from nature, whether it's hiking, walking, mountain climbing, whatever kind of floats your boat. Journaling. I think journaling is super important for everybody at every stage of your life. Sometimes I think back at the journals that I've looked at and the things that I wrote when I was younger in my early 20s. And it's really amazing how much growth you can see from just taking the time. And it doesn't mean you have to write a novel. It just means you spend 10 minutes. Sometimes you need a prompt that can help you, and there's prompted journals. Or if you like to freehand and you really want to just write down your ideas. It's a good way to track your ideas and your thoughts. Number 4, use your senses. So we all have different senses and we have the ability to use them in different ways. Using your senses, whether it's reading, seeing, hearing, tasting, smelling, is a way of being able to get inspiration. Sometimes listening to music is one way that I get inspired, whether it's through the lyrics of a song or it's reading a book. Sometimes there's something that the artist or the author says that really inspires me and I want to write it down. So those are just some ideas. Travel is so fun and it gives you the opportunity to enrich yourself with culture and see new places and meet new people. I mentioned books already, podcasts, TED Talks. Finding a new hobby is also a great way. Giving yourself a mental break. We're in this pattern right now that everyone is either Zoom fatigued or just exhausted from the race that we've been living for the last 14 months. And so giving yourself a mental break, maybe it's a social media detox that might help you kind of get a break from the things. Give back your time. So whether it's going to volunteer at a local food shelter or donating blood or things of that sort that it's going to get you involved in your community. And if you're stuck, Google it. You can Google things that help you seek inspiration, which is another great way of doing it. So I just created this quick short list for you. Growing relationships. So I talked about this before. So here's a great quote. Someone tells you it is one of the fundamental needs of being human. We are creatures, we are human beings, and it is our innate nature to connect with others. And when you talk about growing relationships, especially in a time of change, you want to be able to be around people who are going to support you, who are going to be your biggest cheerleaders. I created a short list, another one, five different items that you can do to grow your relationships. So in this particular summit you're experiencing for the last 2 days, you're actually developing relationships, whether it's through your peers who are here or through the people who put on this summit for you. That's giving you the opportunity. I know there's a networking session happening later, which is another great way. So how can you grow a relationship? And it's not just about, hi, my name is so-and-so, and you exchange information. It's about nurturing that relationship. It's about being grateful for having that relationship. And then practice sharing and expressing. Checking in with someone and seeing how they're doing is one way of doing that. Create trust and honesty. You really need to decide what this relationship means to you and how you want to treat it. Practice consistent communication. I mentioned before, I use LinkedIn all the time to connect with people, and the people who I want to follow up with through, whether it's someone that I want as a guest on my podcast, that's important to nurture that relationship. And then be fair and open. What that means is really being able to receive feedback, especially if it's someone that you trust and is going to be there to support you in the sidelines through whatever you might be going through, or maybe it's someone who you just recently met, but they're really smart about certain things in life that you haven't experienced and they're sharing advice with you. That's really important. So not all relationships are created equal. And even those of the ones you love can be challenging, right? There's a reason family is an F word, and we can choose the family that we want to live with, but sometimes the family that we have is not chosen for us. And so relationships are really important for our lives. They're important for us as humans, and they're important for survival. Feed your mind, take care of your body, and be one with your soul. So this quote is a proverb. I think it's a really ancient proverb. So the body heals with play, the mind heals with laughter, and the spirit heals with joy. Let that sit with you for a minute. I think that when we think about these different parts of your body, your mind, and your soul, we all have very distinct ideas of what they mean. But in order for you to be able to be successful in what you're trying to change and what you're trying to bring into your life, you need to take care of yourself. And you need to take care of your mind, whether it's feeding your mind or giving your mind a break. You need to take care of your body. So whether it's feeding it nutrients and sleeping and getting rest. And then your soul. Your soul is the deep parts of you that you really want to have connected with you all the time. If you're not taking care of your mind and you're not taking care of your body, then your soul is not going to work as much as you want it to. And it's a fundamental part of who you are as a person. And sometimes it takes being alone and being still for you to be really connected with yourself. So some of the most common ways to give attention to all of these areas are exercise, meditate, eating healthy, read more often, which is providing food for your mind. Journaling, I mentioned before, in another practice. Getting involved, I mentioned before as well. Fueling your passion. This is so important. We're talking about professional development and career here. Did you know that 38% of your time as a human being, meaning your whole entire life, is spent working? And one of the things I find really interesting is that a lot of people spend a lot of time chasing after the things that they think are most valuable to them, to then realize that it doesn't really matter to them as much. So find the thing that really gives you purpose in life and that fuels your passion. Don't chase after it because you think money is what's going to make you feel good about your life. It's so important that you give that to yourself. I mentioned listening to music before, getting enough sleep, and practicing gratitude, which are all the same things. If you look at, there's a consistency happening here. There's a pattern developing, which is really important. And this is a really small, short list, by the way. I'm really big on giving lists, but I'm also really big on how-tos, which is what I've created for you here. But ultimately, I wanted to bring some of the things that are really simple to your attention as you're going through some changes, whether it's in your life or through your career, and whether it's people around you that you're trying to support. These are small things that maybe you can help somebody else with, and just sharing it with them if this kind of brings you some energy around it, but at the same time, applying it to yourself. There's a question here that says, how much time is spent sleeping at stoplights or commuting? Oh, interesting. I don't know the facts about that one. The average person gets between 6 to 7 hours of sleep. I don't know how much time is spent at a stoplight or commuting. I can tell you that what I do for my commute, I have a 50-minute commute to work when I'm not here at home in my virtual office. And I listen to audiobooks and podcasts. And that's the way, I call it my mobile office. That's the way I stay engaged and interacting and learning. I love books and I have a big collection of books, but I've never been able to read them. And because my life is so go, 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 we're always on the rush, I never really found a way to really adapt to reading them. So I turned to audiobooks and podcasts. So that's how I'm productive in my commute. But I wish I knew the fact for that. But giving yourself the space to really be with your own and connecting to the things that you really want, making a list of these things might help you create a pros and cons list to really connect to them. And I want to jump into our last one here before you transition into your next presentation. Take time to reflect and grow, which is, if any of them, maybe the most important. You just went through something big. So whether you're graduating from college, or you've already graduated and you're starting your new job, or you're moving from one city to another, those are big life experiences. And you want to give yourself the space as a person, as a human, to really reflect on what you just experienced. We don't do that enough as humans because we're so used to going, 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 and never pausing. And kind of sometimes you have to hit that reset button. And it's not just the reset button where you hit it for the weekend and then you start over again on Monday, which is what we're so used to doing. It's the reset button of recognizing what your mind is telling your body, and what your body is telling your heart, and what your soul is telling your mind. Being able to be with yourself, to see the growth that you're having, and being able to hear what your body's telling you, and understanding where that's coming from. All of these things are a awareness that you have to create for yourself that's part of self-awareness, but it's also mindfulness. And if you really pay attention to everything that I shared, it's all really strategies that we do. We just don't know that we do them. So you create the awareness around them. And it's also things that you need to connect with to really change the behavior around the mindset. Mindset is probably about 85% of what we do. And the ability to believe that we own our voice, that we own our practice, our behaviors, that if you say something that you can't do it, that's because you have a mindset of not believing that you can do it. And it's more about changing that to actually believe you can. So when you go through this journey of growth and reflection, you want to be able to reflect on what you've done and what you have achieved, which is really important. And before I let you go, I have some takeaways for you. So give yourself the permission to feel and experience all the seasons of your life. I think this is so important. It's something that for one, took me a long time in my life to do. And now that I'm doing it more often and reflecting and really creating it and owning it, I feel uplifted and I feel that I'm able to engage with people and share that with people. Ask for help often. I don't know how many times people are just so scared of asking for help. The reality of asking for help is that there's people who want to help others. Fundamentally, you're here in this space because you want to connect with other people. The people who are here want to help you. Raise your hand and say, hey, can we chat about something later on that I really think I need help with? That's not a hard thing to do. It's all about ego and pride. Let that go for a second and show up for you. Create a mantra or a statement of purpose each year. I have a great activity that's on my podcast that can give you information about how to do that, and you're able to actually connect with it. And it's a really good exercise. And if you go to the show notes of the podcast, I'd actually tell you step by step on how to create that statement for yourself. The activity that I want to leave you with is a little bit of fun one. And what I encourage you all to do, all 23 of you that are here today, is write a letter to your 7-year-old self. Thinking back on when you were 7, what is something you want the version of you today to say to the 7-year-old self about what you've accomplished? Think about how deep that is. The struggles you overcame, the things that you want them to remember, and the inspiration you want them to see and feel. When we're young, we're so naive to the world. And then a switch goes off that reality just hits and life just starts going. And sometimes, whether it's family struggles or life struggles, or depending on how you grew up and where you grew up, you may have certain things that have impacted you and are affecting you still today in your life. But when you're able to reflect and take the time to see what you've accomplished and how you're thriving in the seasons of change, you can then look back at that person when you were a child and tell yourself, I survived, I made it, I came here to do something and I achieved it. So I'm encouraging you to do this activity. Write this letter to your 7-year-old self, save the letter and open it in 2022. So 7 months from now, we're in May, so maybe 8 months from now, read this letter in January of 2022 and read it out loud and reflect on how much you've changed and grown. And if you want to connect with me, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. I know Carlos just shared my link to my podcast. My podcast is called Coaching for Millennials, but I welcome everybody. It's a great place to connect with me, but also the people who I welcome as guests. I'm currently doing a series called Uncovering Your Strengths, how to enhance your talents, your talents and your career. So it's really connecting into the Strengths Quest platform, which is by Clifton Strengths Finder, and determining what those talents are for you to be successful in all facets of your life beyond your career. If you want to connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, my handle is at Jose Miguel Longo. And on LinkedIn, just search for Jose Miguel Longo and I should pop up. There's a question here. So what do you say about being naive and growing up with compromises or losing one's innocence while we progress professionally and spiritually? That's a great question. So this is all about giving yourself the space to reflect on those things. If there's something that's hidden that's causing you to feel a certain way, when you're trying to develop yourself professionally, being in that space of awareness, you want to be able to bring that with you. And oftentimes, even if you're trying to connect the spiritualness to your professionalism, you want to be able to be yourself and show up for you, not be a version that you think other people want to see of you. And if you are a spiritual person and you go to church and you practice that a specific religion, then great, be that person and people will either embrace you and those are the people you want to be surrounded by, or they may not, and you can say, okay, thank you so much, have a great day, it was great knowing you, and you move on in your life. It's all about owning yourself and your voice and being able to be happy and joyous with the person you are, as you kind of continue to explore the person you want to be. Vaya con Dios igualmente.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jose Miguel, for your insight, your advices. Definitely follow him. You'll get his the deck of the presentation and different ways for you to be able to follow him. He has amazing podcasts, so I'll definitely recommend them on your way to work. He has so many of them that you have so much information. But I definitely want to thank you one more time, Jose Miguel, for your time and being able to share, some of your knowledge with us.
Thank you so much. And one last thing, I mentioned connect with me. I really mean that. So I'm expecting for the 23 folks who are here to connect with me on LinkedIn and see a personalized invitation to connect. I know one person already did on Monday, and I waited for today before I respond back. So I will respond to everybody later this evening if you're connecting with me. But I'm here to support you and mentor you as you go through this journey. So if you have questions, feel free to pop in the messenger. I'm here for you. Thank you so much, Carlos, for this opportunity. This was great, and I'm so excited to connect in the future as well.
Thank you very much. And now you can just stay tuned. We're going to be starting our next session, Creating Wealth While Managing Debt. So just stay tuned and we'll start the new session.